What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to Brothers of Merit. Taylor, what's up?
What up?
Not much, man. How you doing?
Doing fine.
Doing fine.
Christmas time?
Oh, Christmas time.
How you doing?
It's Christmas time. Same answer. In a good way.
Is it good?
I don't want to sound like Scrooge over here. No, it's good. It's the holidays. Got some off time of work and spend it with the family.
Heck yeah, man.
It's the best part of it. You know, family, friends, Christ. Yeah. That's what it's about. We had the beard on, a.k.a.
Yeah, we did.
Michael Mottie. The beard, a.k.a. Michael Mottie, his real name. We had him on tonight for his interview, and we talked about a lot of great things. Mike, as you guys know, is the man behind... I want to say the mask, man behind the mask, but he's the man behind the scenes that does all of our audio work. That he does everything. He makes us sound a lot better than what we really do sound in person, and what we used to sound like. So Mike was on our show last season, season 1, right around the beginning, episode 4, and we really dug into his life and his testimony and what was going on, you know, from birth up until then. And then today we talked about what he's done in the past year, what he has encountered and what he has conquered and overcame. So I thought it was a great interview. It dug into a lot of stuff.
Heck yeah, I thought it was awesome. And so first, just to say, we didn't get into any of his testimony because that's all available in season 1, episode 4. And his testimony is super powerful. Like God's done a lot of really cool things in his life. And he was very vulnerable in sharing that. Right. And so I'd highly encourage you to go back and listen to season 1, episode 4.
Yep. He did.
To learn more about Mike. Yeah, you'll hear about that. But to learn more about Mike and to get, I think, you know, the value from that episode as well. Just as a quick aside, like, even if you want to do it now, like, hit pause, go back, listen to that, and then come back to us now. But, so now that you're back, time machine.
I see what you did there.
It's going to be wild if someone actually does that. Yeah, no, I loved it too. I thought it was an awesome episode.
Right. And the cool thing about it is our listeners, obviously, I know we have a decent amount that are military. So for those that 100%. Haven't, if you're going to listen to this one and then go back, Mike is a former Marine, and he talks about his time in the service. That was in the last episode. But this one, he talks about the Marine Marathon and what he encountered in that. So our military members will be able to take away from it and understand a lot of it, I'm sure. So it was great, and I can't say enough things about it, and I'm glad he's a part of Brothers of Merit.
Heck yeah.
His character and just who he is as a man, I'm glad to have him as a brother and just a great friend.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, like, if you've listened to any of this, you know this about me, like, it fires me up, like, doing hard stuff, like, and pushing through, like, that mental toughness fires me up. I wouldn't want someone, like, you're going to hear about how hard the race was.
Yep.
I wouldn't want someone on board that would have stopped after mile 15. And there's a lot that we learned from that. And I think it's awesome. So I think there's a ton of really good stuff about just, I don't know, it's tough. Like, we try to, like, have these intros of, like, going through the topic, but it's really just, like, explaining almost what we talked about with Mike. And I think it's really just, like, kind of let the episode speak for itself. We learned a lot. We talked about the marathon. We talked about the things that he learned, and it fired me the heck up.
It sure did.
That's really all I got.
Well, the cool thing was you guys hit on it more, but you both ran the same race at different times in your life.
Sure.
But you both have ran that.
That was both of our first marathons.
Exactly. So you guys hit on it more in the episode. But so for our listeners, hey guys, I'm going to take a shout out now to give you guys kind of a call to action. We haven't asked in a while, so if you guys please could either pause or after this episode go in and just rate and review the podcast. We don't typically talk about our numbers any, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell you that it is a nice way to respond back to Mike, Taylor, and I about how we're doing, the content we're providing, so we can really measure on our end what we need to do.
Yep.
So please, if you don't mind, go in there, review, write something to us to let us know that we're actually fulfilling that void that you're trying to fill, or you need more. Hit the 5 stars if you like us. Hopefully not anything below that, but be honest. And then if you need to reach out even more, go to the website. It's revamped. It looks really nice. Go to the contact us, and then you can get in touch with all 3 of us. So please do that if you don't mind. Just pause, or at the end when you get to work after your car ride, just it takes 5 seconds and help us out.
Heck yeah.
So,
and like, honestly, like, that's the stuff that fires us up.
Right.
I mean, like you just said, the numbers, and I think it's important to, like, The numbers are like, it's something that we need to look at, but the stuff that really keeps us going, that really gets is like juice in the veins.
Your guys' feedback
is when I hear, hey, like when we get a text that's like, hey, I've been listening to the podcast and it's really impacted my life. Or
Right.
like we get a random DM and it's like, hey, this has been a light in my life. And like that stuff fires us up. So like, please keep sending that. Please do. And again, like Brandon said, if it's impacted your life in any way, if you could give us 5 stars, we would greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. So on that note, we'll send it in and listen to what Mike had to say.
See you on the other side.
All right. All right. Michael Mottie, the Beard, is in the house. Mike, what's up, man?
Not much.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
On the air, that is. Off the air,
yeah.
he is the,
He's the Beard.
he is, well, everyone knows him as the Beard. I was going to say the unsung hero, because the past month, he's been taking our audio quality from, like, the ground to, like, the sky level. So,
I also love that we've given you like a nickname that people call you now. I love that.
Yeah. It's been interesting.
He texted us the other day and said, hey, man, people at the church are actually calling me the Beard. And I said, oh.
Yeah.
This
Like
is getting
guys
good.
at the church who listen to the podcast are calling me the Beard now. So that's, I mean,
Heck yeah. Shout out all you guys.
what other nickname could you want in life, right?
I mean, if anyone has seen you and seen your beard, they understand exactly why.
Right. Yeah.
So, but yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. Mike, thanks for coming on, taking your time out.
Sure.
Not just from doing the audio side, but doing the actual podcast.
Yeah. I'm doing both right now.
You
so.
actually are, which you're multitasking. You lost me there already, which I would have already messed up. But so Mike, if you guys didn't know, was on our first season, episode 4.
Yep.
Taylor was 3 and Mike was 4. So you guys were both my 2 first interviews, once we started this Brothers of Merit, and then from there it's just grown to what it is. So if you guys want to hear Mike's testimony and his bring up and background, go back to season 1, episode 4, because we won't get back into that, because that was a great episode. It really dug deep into Mike's life and what he has gone through. So I highly recommend anyone listening to this, if you're new to us since season 1 or haven't heard that, please go back and listen to it.
And really just like relatable on a really vulnerable level. And I think that's what makes it definitely worth a listen to anybody, especially like I know we have guys who are military guys, and so he shares a lot about that experience. But even if you're not necessarily, like I said, there's a lot that's relatable on a really vulnerable level that really hits deep. And
Yep.
so it's good. It's really good. Definitely recommend it.
So, Mike, tell us a little bit what's going on in your life, man. Like, what's God doing, and how's he working with you?
So it's interesting because on the way over here, I was actually listening to that episode, the season 4 episode.
Preparing.
And it was...
And you loved the sound of your own
and
voice.
I hated the sound of my own voice. No, it was just really cool to think about where I was at
Yeah.
Basically,
when I
almost a year
recorded.
ago.
Yeah, when we recorded that episode, and like where I'm at now. Like I almost didn't recognize that person. Like I did, but I didn't. Because I think I've just grown like so much since that time, which is really cool to think about.
Heck yeah.
Now, when you say grown, what do you mean? Like spiritually? Like what?
Facial hair. What are
Like
you talking about?
obviously, I've grown quite a lot more facial hair.
But you have shaved it in between then and now, too.
I did, yeah.
So for a good cause.
Which is like showing off, considering the facial hair that both me
yeah,
and Brandon.
it's really a slap in the face. But
I mean, I try.
No one likes to show off.
I'm not trying to rub it into your face, so.
even my son watched him get his beard shaved off. We went and watched him at a high school shave his beard
That was
off.
cool.
So Marine might come back out.
But yeah, I just think that, I've grown a lot spiritually, mentally. So I kind of got to this point where I just wanted to just pour myself into serving.
Love it.
And I started getting involved in like Wellspring For Life, which is it's an equine therapy center. So Dawn is the lady who runs it, and she's really passionate about doing. So she primarily deals with children with who are on the autism spectrum, and so what it teaches them is focus and how to and balance and stuff like that, and how to communicate with the horse, because that takes a tremendous amount of focus. but recently she's tried to launch this military.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this military program where she wants veterans who are struggling with stuff like PTSD to come in and get treatment and do equine therapy. She actually just got sponsored not too long ago by Wounded Warrior. So Wounded Warrior will pay for any veteran. All they have to do is register through Wounded Warrior, and all of their therapy sessions are free. So just helping her out on her farm a lot. And just like Justin's place, we hung some Christmas decorations. So Justin's place is it's like a men's recovery center here in Westminster. We hung some Christmas decorations and cleaned out their attic in the carriage house behind the house that they live in, so that they could put. They want to build like workshops in there so guys can learn like basic skills like electrical work and woodworking skills and stuff like that. And then I ran a marathon.
Heyo.
Yeah.
Specifically the Marine Corps marathon, which was which was my first marathon. And
Same.
Yeah, I know. We talked about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was my first marathon as well.
It was cool. And so just growing through that whole experience was pretty tremendous too. I'd never really run a marathon before.
You don't really run a marathon, or you've never run a marathon?
Never, literally never run a marathon before.
Yeah.
So, and people like leading up to the marathon asked me if like, what made you want to run a marathon? Are you a runner? And I'm like, no, I actually hate running. And they're like, well, why are you running a marathon? And I'm like, I don't really know. But I think through actually running that marathon, I learned a lot.
Sure.
And I didn't really anticipate that. I thought it was just going to be like this thing that later on in life I could look back at and say, oh, I've run it like a notch on the belt. Right.
Yeah.
I've run a marathon. But the learning, the stuff that I learned through running that marathon was a tremendous experience.
Heck yeah.
First off, I didn't really train for it like I probably should have. I trained a little bit, but not nearly enough. I think the furthest I had run before the marathon was like the furthest distance was maybe like 10 miles. 10 miles.
Well, you're only 16 short. I mean,
right? Yeah.
Hey, you're in the ballpark area.
Don't recommend.
Yeah.
Don't recommend.
I mean, it's horseshoes and hand grenades, right? It's close enough. But
that's such a I'm going to interrupt you, and the fact that you just said that you've served with equine therapy and like the PTSD because of the Wounded Warrior, and then horseshoes and hand grenades, like that term. It's funny.
Yeah, it's probably going to trigger some people, but
that's funny.
So, it was the day of the marathon. It poured down rain. It was windy and cold.
Love that.
So most of the day I was running into the rain. And my headphones died at I want to say mile 11 or something like that.
Fire me up.
And so the first thing I learned is that so when I took my headphones off, I realized that I could actually hear the people who were standing on the side of the road in the pouring down rain who were cheering on the other runners.
Sure.
And so if my headphones hadn't died, I would have never realized that I wouldn't have ever felt that motivation.
That people cheering for
that they were supplying. Yeah. And so it sort of kept me going for a little bit. So that was really cool. And I think the perspective that it gave me was that I was completely in my head for that first 10 or 11 miles.
Sure.
And I remember wanting to make a certain time and hold a certain pace and keep that going. And when my headphones died and I pulled them out, I actually started running at like a more comfortable pace.
Sure.
Because I was running way too fast in the beginning, which is also kind of a story for life. If you try, I think you talked about the proverb, the African Ethiopian proverb last week about
I just mentioned that this morning.
running too fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, my headphones died, which was awesome.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I really think it is. And I'm not interrupting you. Just as we go with this story, I want to just
interject.
Yeah, I mean, think of it, if you guys are thinking about headphones dying in a marathon, think of it as like real life in regards to your faith. I mean, if you take the headphones off, which is Satan, today's world, and then you focus on who's really trying to talk to you and cheer you on, which is God, that allows you to continue on and truly dig into the race, which, I don't know, when I'm listening to you say that's the picture that painted in my head.
No, that's
you know
good.
what I mean? Like, that's all it was. So when you truly got to hear those people that were cheering you on, that's just God there saying.
Yeah. That's cool. And I think, that's awesome, because I was actually going to say something completely different.
Oh, good. I was about to say.
Well, no, like, I think it's cool that, like, we both just drew something different out of that same, like, because I was going to say that, like, when you're in your own head, and, like, we talked about that, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Like, that African proverb we talked about last week. Like, when you're in your own head, and you're only worried about your own thoughts, and you're worried about, like, your identity, and you pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps, and you being strong, and you know, whatever. And then when that dies, and you were forced to look around you, you weren't alone.
Right.
There was people alongside you. Like, if you look, like, once you're able to, like, get those headphones off, and you're able to, like, take that off and not just think about yourself, look to the left and the right, and it's lining the streets with people who are there to cheer you on. There's people that are there trying to get you to keep going.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that don't want to see you stop and fail.
Yeah.
And I think that's super, like, life, like brotherhood. Like,
Absolutely.
hey, there's people beside you that care and that don't want to see you stop and fail. And sometimes we just got to take the headphones off.
Yeah. And I think another thing that it taught me is that I was focusing too much on myself.
Right.
And like what I was doing. Because there was a lot of that race that was really uncomfortable. I'm pretty sure like around like mile 15, my hamstrings had like just completely locked up. And so I was trying to run like 3 minutes at a time and then walk a minute and then run another 3 minutes and walk a minute. And so there are 3 cutoffs in that race. And if you don't make it across, so there's 2 bridges. If you don't make it across those 2 bridges and then make it to mile 22 marker by a certain time, they divert you and you don't get to finish. So it sort of changed my perspective of running a really impressive time to
survival,
literally. Right. Yeah, literally. Because it was
like gritting something out that like most people would stop. Like, hey, my hamstrings are locking up and I'm just over halfway done. I have a long way to go. Right. There's mental toughness that it took in.
And so I could just like, I started to like picture like a lot of the buddies that I've lost from my Marine Corps days. Like I just sort of like started picturing them like waiting on me at the finish line. And like I just kept hearing God's voice like this, like they're not going to let you fail. Like you just have to keep going. And so
sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
What mile is the Fallen Soldier mile?
I want
like 9 or 10.
It's pretty early.
Okay, so that had already happened.
Yeah, I had already done that. I kind of tried
for those of you that don't know. Sorry, again to interrupt, but there's 1 mile on the Marine Corps Marathon where there's not allowed to be spectators, and it's lined. The entire mile is lined with pictures of fallen soldiers, fallen veterans, and it's just pictures of the entire mile, both sides of the, and it's crazy because the Marine Corps Marathon is like there's people literally the entire race. Yeah, like if you've ever run a marathon,
even like, in the pouring down rain, it was the streets were like lined with people, and I was
I just got chills with you guys talking.
Like
about. Like
to me, that was the crazier part. That
always
like these people were willing to come out in the pouring down rain and stand here and like cheer people on. But what I think it's interesting because like that mile, it's so quiet.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. Like, and
dead
it just
quiet.
completely like it's the only mile in the entire race, which is different. Most time when you run a marathon,
right,
there's gonna be sections where that happens, but like it's so impactful because it's the only mile out of all 26 that doesn't have people, and that is for a reason. It's to get you to remember, like, there's people that came before you and that did stuff a lot harder than what you're doing right now,
right,
and that were a lot more important, you know, for like than just personal gain. Like they were protecting our country, and that's important, and it puts a lot of things in perspective when you're doing something really hard.
Yep, literally laid their lives down. Right. So it was like
that's why I brought it up when you.
That was a really cool mile because it like you said, it went from like people cheering you on to now like you're just seeing all these pictures of like servicemen on like they're kind of on like those street like movie or like a cafe sign almost, but they're like pictures of fallen soldiers and it's lining the street and it's just dead quiet. Yeah. So that was really cool. But yeah, so I think so I obviously finished and I made it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And so I think the aspect of that it revealed to me was that how important aim is in life. And we sort of talk about it a lot in the people that we interview, and we talk a lot about like looking more like Jesus every day, right? That's an aim. But I think it's also important to like the crucial part about aim is that you're not only are you looking towards something, but you're also running away from something, right? So there's this a research study with like rats where they calculate the speed that the rats are running towards the food, and what they noticed was that they run if they're really hungry. Yeah, they'll run fast to get the cheese, right? And I stole all of this from Jordan Peterson, so this is not like this is not.
I never heard it.
So
I was gonna say,
but what they noticed was that when they introduced, so rats don't like cats, right? That's a pretty biological thing.
Yep.
So what they did was they introduced the smell of like cat pheromones. Okay. And what they realized was the rat would run even faster towards the cheese because of what it was running away from, but also because of what it was running towards.
So it had a direction because of the cheese, and then it had a motivation because of the cat.
Right.
Okay.
And so I think it's important to not just to not take that statement like trying to wake up and look more like Jesus for face value every day. It not only needs to be about looking more like Jesus every day, it really also needs to be about like, don't just think about the things that God is, like you also need to be running away from the things that God's not.
Right. Or like the other things that are pulling on us. Like looking like Jesus is the direction. And we're sinful and live in a fallen world, and Satan, there's like spiritual war going on for like our attention that day, and that's the motivation. Like that's the cat. Like, hey, like if I don't get up and try to look like Jesus, the alternative is looking like the world. Right. And that's not where I want to find myself.
No. Yeah. It's funny you say that because I picked up my son today from school. It's a Wednesday, so he has the Good News Club every Wednesday, and that's, they meet after school. He's in kindergarten. They do it all, which we've talked about before. It's in public school. I think it's amazing that they're doing this Christian-led group. But he got a little kit today because it's Christmas, and one of the lanyards inside of it said the traditional, what everyone knows, the WWJD. You know what I mean? Like, what would Jesus do? And I never, I don't want to say it's like a cliche saying, but you see those initials everywhere. I mean, people even get them to the point where they get them tattooed on them. Yeah. Right. So I've always thought that exact thing. Like, it's watered down, it's everywhere. But for some reason today, when I pulled it out of my car, I took it inside and I saw it, it literally made me think and like step back for like 5 seconds and just embrace that actual saying. Like, what would Jesus do? And I think that kind of ties into what we're talking about now in regards to it really makes me think. It just made me think in depth about that sentence right there. And literally the exact same thing popped in my head. Like, we always say, let's strive to look like Jesus every day, to have that Jesus-like image. And it just went hand in hand with that. So I don't know. It just made me think about that, because it is a cliche type thing, watered down, but it's true.
Right.
And I think so. I think the other aspect that's important, right, is to know where you're at. Like, you have to understand where you're at. So, running a marathon has a starting line and a finish line, right? So, you know where you're starting, and you know where you're finishing. If they tried to run that marathon, if they tried to organize that marathon by not telling runners where to go, right, it would be like pure chaos. There'd just be people running everywhere.
Right.
And like no one would know where they're going. But there's clear markers along the path that show runners exactly where they're supposed to go.
Yeah. And how far you've gone.
And how far you've gone, so you understand like how much of the race is left and how much, how far you've come and how much is left to go. So
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So,
I think about my walk with God sort of similarly. I start to see, and that's why looking back at episode 4 was so important, because it was sort of showing me that, like, it gave me a pretty clear image of like where I was at the time. And now I see where I'm at. And it's awesome. I'm still running the race, but I'm a lot further along than I was before.
Sure.
Right. And for us, I think that guide, this may sound, I don't want to say weird or stupid, but I don't know. I think our guide is our Bible in a way.
Yeah.
It's definitely our guiding light into our faith. So when you said like about the signs that are pointing you in what direction to take, we all have those signs. You know what I mean? We just have to elect to see them. And
yeah.
I think this book, I'm pointing to it, it's right in front of me. You guys can't see that.
It's his Bible.
It's my Bible. So, but yeah, that's what made me think about it.
So I think that's also where Brotherhood is really important too, because I think other people are always going to be better at seeing you the way God sees you than you are, because Absolutely. You're your own worst critic.
Good word.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why Brotherhood is really important, because you, even if you're doing really good or you're doing really bad in terms of your spiritual walk, like your brothers are going to see that and they're going to point it out to you. Mm-hmm. So where you might be like, no, I'm doing fine, man. Like,
right.
I'm paying my bills, my family's happy.
Right.
Like,
but like a brother's coming alongside and he's like, no, like you've been walking for the last 2 miles and you could have been running.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. You're not going to finish.
The end is still here. There's a bridge cut off.
Right.
Like
at this pace, you're not going to finish. Yep. Like, you need to step it up.
Exactly. That's good. I love, this is, again, like my, like not my classic side tangent thing.
You're so good at them, though.
No, like I love that, like, just like peel behind the curtain. Like, we started this and we were like, oh, we're going to talk to Mike. It's going to be like a normal interview, and we're going to talk about, like, marathon and what's going on in his life. And he was like, I want to talk about AIM. We're like, we don't know what that means, and so we're going to hear it. And I love it. Like, it fires, I don't know. We've said it before, like, it fires me up, and I know the episodes that fire me up are, like, the ones that are really going to hit home, because it's the ones that we're, like, I don't know. Like, we've said it many times, like, this is God's podcast, and this is like what he wants to do with each episode is like coming out, and like I love that this conversation is what came out of literally, like, it wasn't it was literally like we just wanted to talk about a marathon, and obviously you had thought through a little bit of what you wanted to say,
right?
But like I don't know, I don't know, it blows me. I guess it blows me away week after week that like God literally just continues to show up in really powerful ways, in ways that are like, it's like moving the needle in my life personally. Like,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so like I know for you listening right now, it's hopefully the same.
It's that weekly reminder. We've said that multiple times,
Yep.
but that's why we love doing this. It's because it's that weekly reminder from, I want to say, like you just said, Mike, it's in Brotherhood itself, you hear more and you benefit more from other people telling you something than you hearing it like from yourself. So from you hearing it from that external source, this platform, from other people in different walks than yours, it allows you then to evaluate your current walk and life and what's going on in your relationship with God. So I love it. So in regards to how we typically start to end these, we always ask on the advice from Brotherhood. So I know if you guys go back to episode 4, it was vulnerability.
Yep.
In general,
his advice
was your advice on Brotherhood. So what would you say now then, with this lens, almost a year later, 11 months ish later? What would you say your advice is now on Brotherhood for our listeners?
Stay in the race. Like, stay in it. There's gonna be times where, it feels like everybody is walking away from the table, and because I mean we've talked about it on this podcast before, like how just hard men's ministry is and like how hard Brotherhood is, and it's because people just get up and they walk away from the table instead of having hard conversations and holding each other accountable. So I think the reason the saying is iron sharpens iron is not because like you're not rubbing two sticks together, right? Like you're not rubbing two pieces of paper together. It's iron and iron. They're hard objects.
Yeah.
But you don't get sharper unless you rub them together. Like it takes work. It takes real work, and it takes intentionality. So it's gonna. I feel like we talk about that a lot, like getting uncomfortable to get. I feel like that's been like the whole season.
But it's
for the most part,
true.
It's accurate. It's really accurate, and I think you just have to meet some guys who are really intentional about their relationship with Jesus and understanding all aspects of who Jesus is.
And it's not, and don't anyone take this in like a arrogant way or anything like that, but it's not that hard once you get past that step. You know what I mean? That stage in the relationship of that brotherhood you're trying to build, it's not as hard as it is before you get there. Mm-hmm. So if you can start to build those relationships and talk about the things that need to be talked about, and you start to get that uncomfortable feeling out of you because then you get comfortable with the relationship you build, it's not as hard. Right. So it's just getting people. Exactly. And men just need to realize that it really shouldn't be, like you just said, men's ministry is a hard thing. It's not. It really isn't.
By comparison. Yeah,
correct.
It's not.
Right. It really isn't if you take a step back and realize what you could have and what it should be, but you just have to put in the work, the effort. You have to get uncomfortable.
And you have to be vulnerable. Like going back to your advice from last season.
I know it seems hard, and I'm not saying it like right now, like we know exactly like we're the best, but I'm telling you right now, it's not as hard as anyone may make it seem to be or make it out to be.
And it's because like going in, I'm thinking through like specifically like conversations I've had in my past of like really hard conversations, like admitting sin to a brother, and like, cause like, you know what, like I really just need your help and accountability to get through this, like really hard, vulnerable, opening myself up conversation. And like, you know, it like, I mean, it sucks.
Yeah, I don't say
like,
it doesn't
it's certainly
suck.
not something I'm going in like, I cannot wait for this to happen.
Right.
Like, can't wait for this breakfast.
Yeah.
But on the other side, it's like, holy crap. Like, I can't imagine if that didn't happen. You know what I mean? Right. And then the next time, it's like, and hopefully there's not just a continual next time of huge sins you have to continue to commit, admit to each other. But, I
mean, we're all pretty terrible at it, so.
Right. But like the next time you have something that's like a really awkward conversation, I don't, like, again, like with that same guy, like there's a time that, like there was another time then later that it was like, hey man, I'm really struggling with this. And like, it was easier to come to him and say like, hey, I'm struggling with this because I know last time, like it's not like any like less comfortable.
Right.
It's still uncomfortable.
It still sucks.
But like, hey, on the other side, like this is going to be better. This is what needs to happen.
Right.
And like, I don't know.
So there's like,
It's not that hard. It's not hard. It is hard, but it's at the end of the day, like it's hard to do, but it's not hard because all you have to do is just let the wall down.
Right.
Like all you have to do is be vulnerable.
I think it's easier though, obviously sitting on our end saying it's not hard, only because where we've come from. If you would have asked me that like a year and a half ago before we really started to dive into this, like obviously I would have said it different. But I'm saying it now in a mentor type role to all the listeners out there. Like it isn't that hard because I feel comfortable with the two men in this room that if I had to talk about something, I could. You know what I mean? Because we've taken those necessary steps to build this relationship and brotherhood where we have it now. That's what I'm saying. So I don't want anyone listening or thinking like, oh, Brandon's just like talking me down, because I'm not. I'm just saying, I'm giving you advice actually. If you build that relationship with the men that you want, it will be easier. I promise.
And like to tie a nice little bow on this race analogy, like if you don't have brotherhood, we've said it from the very beginning. If you don't have it, find it. And like Mottie's advice just right now was stay in the race. And for some people, it's like, hey, get in the race. And the only way for it to get to this point where, like, hey, it's easier because I have guys pushing me alongside and I have this iron sharpening iron, is because you took that first step off the starting line and you invited other people. You looked around and you're like, hey, hold on, there's people that I want to do this life with.
And that's the first step.
And it actually, like, it became easier for me to run the race, like, when I started encouraging other people to run.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So, like, if you're encouraging the men around you to get more intentional about their relationship with God, the race gets easier. Like, you get more excited about running the race because you're using your energy. And so there are two types of reward, not to drag this out, but there are two types of reward.
Nice.
There's consumer reward and there's incentive reward, and your brain responds to them two different ways. So consumer reward would be like, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat a Thanksgiving meal, and now I'm satiated and I fall asleep and blah, blah, blah. Incentive reward is the type of reward where it's for service. It's for something good. And so people value incentive reward more than they do consumer reward. Consumer reward is temporary.
Sure.
It fades faster in terms of how your brain processes it. It's over very quickly. Incentive reward is something that stays with you mentally for longer periods of time. So by encouraging the runners around you, you're actually making it easier for you to run your own race.
That's good. And I love that. And again, I think, because I also want to like say to what we were saying, like, again, we're not saying like it is easy,
right?
Because it is an incredible, like, I don't want it to come across as like, oh, like if it's hard for you, then you're not doing it right. Like, it is hard. It's not easy. What we're saying is like all you have to do is step into that brotherhood, encourage others, and like it's not an easy thing to do, but the task itself, all you have to do is let vulnerability be a thing. Yeah. Like, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah. And I would say last
that's
thing...
not an easy... Much easier said than done. Easy.
Right.
But hard at the same... You know what I mean?
Yep.
And the last thing I would say is, what's the alternative? Right? Like, what are you going to do?
Keep your headphones on.
Are you just going to sit on the couch all day and, like, watch Netflix on end until you just waste into oblivion? Like, what's your other option?
Yeah, The Mandalorian isn't even on Netflix. It's on Disney Plus. So
I'm about to go watch it right now, though.
I'm not. Taylor's pumped for it.
Son.
I'm trying to watch.
Baby Yoda for
dude,
days.
I'm trying to finish the first Star Wars. I started watching. I got 30 minutes left in. I'm trying to.
That's fair. That's fair.
Bear with me. At least I made the effort.
I
dove into it just like Brotherhood. That was the hardest step.
There was a starting line. You had to get to the starting line. You're at the very beginning. Mandalorian's like at the end of the race right now.
See? So I'm getting there. I just got to get past my 5 and 3-year-old talking the whole time.
It's not hard. It's easy. Oh, you just have to push.
You guys hear that? You guys hear that? But Mike, thanks.
Have you guys ever seen Blast from the Past, the movie with Brendan Fraser?
Yeah. I've seen that.
Of course, Brandon has.
I feel like that's you.
Seriously.
Like you and your family used to be like locked in the nuclear fallout shelter.
I've seen 10 movies in my life. That's one of them. The other ones were Pauly Shore movies. But Mike, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for doing this interview.
I mean, I had to be here anyway, so.
Right. Thanks for turning on the mic.
Yeah, you legitimately did have to be here. So
Thanks for turning on
yeah,
the
but thanks
mic.
for coming on and being
Nothing was
part, not just of Brothers of Merit, but of the material and the content that the guys will take away. So thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
Taylor, thank you just for being Taylor.
We'll cut that part. Thanks, Brandon, for you being you. Cut that part.
All right. So you guys just heard The Beard, a.k.a. Michael Mottie. I need to stop saying it. I need to say it the other way because I'm going to start calling him The Beard, even though he's my friend. I call him Mike. So you guys just heard from Mike, a.k.a. The Beard, about the marathon that he ran for the Marine Corps. Mm-hmm. I am the only one here in this room that has not ran a marathon.
Guess what your first one needs to be?
The Marine Corps Marathon. And literally, I thought that through my head when you guys were talking. I was like, I'm the only one that hasn't. And I think that'd be kind of cool if that first one was. You know what I mean?
It'd be super cool.
But
anybody out there that works for the Marine Corps Marathon, hook us up.
Right. Does the Air Force have one? Just throwing that out there. No? Army? Army has a 10-miler, but
you know what
Mike's face right now. He's like, yeah, right. No. Freaking Air Force.
You know what the Army stands for?
What?
Ain't ready for the Marines yet.
Oh. Look at Mike in the corner. He's just laughing. He's like, yeah.
My dad was a Marine. That's the only reason I can say that.
Okay.
I didn't do anything in the military.
So yeah, next week is our last episode for season 2.
Yep.
It's going to be Taylor and I. We're going to kind of recap on season 2 and what we've learned. And hopefully what you guys have learned to take away from it as well. It's been a great season.
Heck yeah.
I wrote down the episodes before, just jotting some notes down. Like, I can't believe the content and the people we've interviewed, and just it's been a great. Even my wife, like the episode she's listened to, it seems like every week she has just come back and been like, "Man, that was a good episode." Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just so stoked with where we're at.
Right. Like, I feel like Mottie actually texted us, I think it was like this past week, like, he was like, I feel like Brothers of Merit took a turn this season, which is wild because, like, we kind of have been just really just letting God take this thing where it was from the very beginning. Like, we didn't have, when Brandon created season 1, episode 1, it wasn't like, I'm going to create seasons and then fireside studies and then season, and
nope.
Like, that wasn't the plan. It wasn't even the plan until probably, like, full disclosure, like, pull the curtain back, episode 33, we probably decided to do seasons as the way that we did it. Like, we were kind of just really prayerfully flowing into, like, just whatever God wanted to do. And so then to catch up, to level set, like we said this on the last episode, to catch up and level set the cadence of how we want to do things, and, you know, catch up since season 1 was so long. Season 2 was, the reason why I'm saying all of that, which was way too long, is season 2 was awesome, and it was like a turning point for, like, really, like, what guys, like, I feel like we've gotten a lot of really good people, like, feedback of people reaching out and being like, hey, this is really impacting me, and, like, we're really starting to, like, gain a lot of traction and momentum, and it was only 10 episodes.
Yep.
Like, it was only 10 weeks.
Yep.
Which is incredible and really fires me up for the future. I'm pumped to talk about that next week.
Heck yeah.
We'll talk a little Christmas and stuff too, but I'm pumped. It's gonna be awesome.
And keep your eyes peeled, because the fireside studies might be teasing here in the next couple weeks. So keep your eyes peeled.
Heck yeah.
Possibly to the tuba channel. We'll see, but keep your eyes peeled. Thank you guys for your support. Thanks for tuning in, and we will talk to you next week.
See ya.
See ya.